All right. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? All right, I think we got sound going. I think we have sound. Can you see my presentation? Lisa says yes. All right, well, I'm going to jump right in. And I'll pause periodically for questions. But sorry for the little delay. I know it's a weekday, but we will make the most of this time. Welcome to our Structuring Success, primarily for loan brokers that are in here. Anyone who is structuring loans. Andrew's there, Lisa's there. All right, we got folks in. Awesome. The purpose of tonight is to share a little bit about Central. There's a lot of great capital partners out there, but really just share what's different about Central lending. We'll pause for questions, but the goal is for each of y'all to come away with why Central should be an option for your next deal to place, because we structure deals for success. That is the goal of tonight, is for each of y'all to come away with how you can structure your deals for success. And it's okay if you're not a loan broker. If you're doing your own deals, even better. So a little bit about the company. Our CEO, Andrew, started the company really with a vision of finding a reliable private capital provider. He enjoys golf. He's a family man. But since starting our company, we have built 3 funds with over $30 million in asset management. The company is Florida-based. We are lending in over 40 states, but our headquarters is in Lakeland, Florida. We do a lot of deals there as well. Our products include bridge loans, rehab loans, construction, and DSCR. Also, we funded over 100 fix and flips as well as ground ups. And we're proud to say we have recently funded our 1,200th loan. Some of our numbers. We have originated as a company over 260 million loans. Our average loan size is about $200,000. So that's a lot of units that we've moved through. We actively service our own portfolio as well. We have $75 million in loans. And again, $30 million in capital raise that we manage. We're extremely proud of our principal return rate of 8%. And we have never missed an investor distribution. So we're very proud of that. And there's a lot of great capital providers out there in the marketplace. We know that some of the things that make us distinct is that we provide private money. So we have a team that raises capital. That those funds do not come with strings attached or a distant Wall Street fund or some faceless, corporate structure. These are actual people's money that we're lending out. We close fast. So I'm the head of sales, our CEO. He and I look at every single deal as well as our loan manager. We meet throughout the day to get your deals closed in as quickly as 2 days. We want to make the process easy. We want the processing to go easy. We want the closing to go easy. And we want the construction to go easy. And a large part of that is because of our US-based team. We're flippers ourselves. We've done over 100 deals. That's part of our portfolio, is fixing, building, flipping, renting homes in the Central Florida market. And it's in our DNA. Our purpose is to provide reliable private capital for real estate investors. And the big reason we can do that is because we raise our own funds. So any changes from a distant corporate Sure, some Wall Street funds. We control our funds, and we can control the way that we help our borrowers. So who actually uses hard money? Well, real estate flippers is our client base. These are not owner-occupied loans or car loans or business loans, but these are for real estate professionals. We also help people doing their very first flip. We'll help people who have just started an entity. We will also help people who've done their 100th deal. So we have financing options for any and all investors. And what is hard money? Those are private loans for real estate that are backed by hard assets. So we really look at each deal. We want to make sure that your property, your fix and flip is going to be profitable. We can use these types of loans for acquisitions, for rentals, as well as new construction. And the big thing is we want to be fast and flexible. I worked in a bank for a long time. Your loans do not go to loan committees and take weeks and weeks to get a yes or even a maybe, but we want to move your deal very quickly. Some of the times to use hard money, we went over that. So when should you leverage hard money for your business? Because after all, why not just use your own cash? You could save on fees. You could save on the time of working with us. Why not just go use your cash or heck, raise cash? We raise cash from investors. You could do the same. So here's a side-by-side scenario of an investor who starts off with $400,000 today, does the exact same type of deals, but one uses hard money and one does not. So the investor on the left uses all their own cash. They start with $400,000. They pick two projects side by side that each cost $200,000 each. The profit after their flip is $40,000, and it takes them about 6 months to do it. So two projects side by side, 6 months. You're doing 4 deals a year with a total profit of $160,000 or 40%. Some of the benefits is that you are able to save on the cost of capital and it's less risky, but the limitation is, well, you can only do deals while you have cash. The investor on the right, same exact starting cash, $400,000, but instead they put down payments down, $50,000 each. The profit's a little bit less. Instead of $40,000, they get $30,000. They can get their deal done in 6 months. There are 16 deals that they're able to successfully navigate, and their profit for all the 16 deals is $480,000. But look at that return on their initial investment. They are now getting a return of 120%. Some of the limits are that it requires repayment and some planning, but some of the benefits is you can scale immensely. And it just illustrates that a little bit more here. So of all the lenders in the marketplace, why choose Central or who do you even start with? So you have direct lenders. That's us. We control our own funds. We have in-house processors, in-house decision makers. You could also go to correspondent lenders. So people that represent a couple of options. Brokers is another popular one. We represent a lot of loan brokers in the marketplace. And the loan brokers, they can take you to numerous options. Some of the key benefits to brokers is that they can help represent you and find the best funding possible. But some of the downside is they're an extra cost. So you could just go directly to lenders. We help borrowers in both brackets. We have some great broker partners, and we also have some great borrowers who just come directly to us. Each of y'all are familiar with banks. I worked in banking for some time. They certainly have the capital. And once you get to a certain growth stage for your business, you are able to, you can scale up faster. And a lot of times their capital is a little bit cheaper, but at least starting off, it just takes time to get your deals through. So we're going to go through underwriting 101, but I'm going to pause periodically to answer some questions. I see from Lisa, she asks, what markets are you licensed in? So we do loans in 40 states, all over the Southeast. We don't do as many out on the West Coast, California, Nevada, and there's just some states that are tough for hard money, but we do loans in over 40 states. Hope that answers Lisa's questions. All right, I'll keep on rolling. So what do we look at when we are considering whether or not your deal will be successful? So there's three main categories, main buckets. The first is the deal itself. The next is the entity. And the third is you. You are the biggest indicator of the future success of your project. For your deal, we look at the property itself. And really, we look at, for the price that you're buying it, the budget you're going to spend, is it going to be successful? It's as simple as that. We use third parties that help bring together the data, but a lot of times we just use our eyes and say, of the sales that are going on around your house, is it realistic for the price that you're buying and what you're expecting to sell it for? For your entity data, we want to know about the entity that's borrowing. So a good entity for us is one, maybe a team of borrowers, but it's very clear who's bringing what to the table. This person's bringing the cash, this person's bringing the experience, and that's clearly laid out for us. And then also personal data. So we look at your past experience, we look at your credit, we also look at your cash to close. This is a very capital intensive business. We work hard to keep your down payments low, but we still want to see that you are able to sustain the project. Each project has a contract. Each project has a contract, and it should be very clear who the seller is, who your borrower, and who the buyer is. The rehab budget. So if all the documents we collect, I think your budget is hands down your most pertinent item. It shows that you have a realistic idea of how much it costs to fix and renovate a house. Also, it shows us that while you're doing the project, we're able to be your partner. We help you with draws and make sure that the project's on schedule and it's going to sell or refinance at a profit. The deal data. So we have, I think, one of the best reports through our partnership with Richard Values. It tells you, based on the deal and what the market is paying, what the perfect budget should be. And it even gives you a range. So it tells you what you could spend as low as for a budget or what you could spend as much as. But it also spells out what they recommend is the optimal strategy. Sometimes it's the one that lifts the price the most, but other times it's the one that gets your deal finished the quickest. So some great tools that we offer as you go through it. Title work is pretty standard. We want to make sure that you have clean ownership to the title. There's nothing impeding or clouding the title. And a lot of times you and the seller get to choose that. So we are open to whatever you want to bring. Hazard insurance is perfect. Everyone thinks that their project's going to go perfectly, but of the over 1,000 closings we're seeing where they don't. Mother Nature happens, fires happen. So we want to make sure that there's insurance that is there to cover your project, your property. Entity data. So we want to be able to have you articulate, if it's just you, okay, this is my borrowing strategy, my borrowing team, but a lot of times we work with teams. What our team's very good at is finding what we call straw borrowers. So you might kind of put somebody in there to make the project look good. They might have stellar credit or a lot of cash, and that's good. We want strong people on your team, but we want to easily look at your entity documents and figure out who's a part of the deal, who's pulling the strings. And the story you tell us should clearly match your entity data. And that's where the operating agreement comes into play as well. Signing consent. So a good deal to us is all the partners are there, they all sign it. We think that it's reasonable for everyone who's benefiting from the deal can sign onto the deal. Now, sometimes we'll get the request to say this person can't sign, and we do our best. If the people who are signing can stand on their own 2 feet and the deal could happen without them, sure. But even so, we would just want to know, why are they even associated with the deal if they're not willing to sign their name on the loan? To us, the payback of the loan is just very crucial, and being able to see, everyone really step up and guarantee the loan is so important. Mailing address, that is standard. An EIN letter, so we need to verify that the EIN that you're using is certified. Driver's licenses are pretty standard. Credit and background. So I get this question a lot of, what is your, what's your lowest credit score? I don't think anybody says what's your highest score. I mean, the more the merrier, but I get that question. What's the lowest score you could get? Because we control our own capital, for us, it's very contingent on what's the story. If someone has 500 credit, but the story makes sense and it was an isolated event, and since then they've had stellar credit, we'll fund that deal. Somebody who might have over 700 credit, but every few years there's a bankruptcy or a major charge off, we will either reduce the loan significantly or we won't fund it. So we always want full transparency. A lot of our competitors, they will simply say, if your score is less than 680 or 700, we're just not going to do it all together. We think that doesn't fall in line with, knowing the full story of the loan. So we are very flexible. For experience, we fund first-timer deals. We have borrowers that have done over 100 deals. To us, it's key that we can document whatever the experience is. So sometimes people will come to us where they've been a part of a team and they're ready to strike out on their own. We're happy to help that borrower, but we really want to see that they were part of that deal. Not only that they just found a property, but did they sign the loan? Did they contribute cash? Did they do something meaningfully for that deal that if they weren't there, it wouldn't have happened? So kind of the similar litmus test for us is you're a significant partner. If you weren't here, the deal wouldn't be able to go through. We talked about the personal data. So what are some red flags? So a bridge to bridge. Some of you on this call are brokers. I know Lisa said she just represents herself, but some people on this call are loan brokers. And a lot of times you'll get called to say, the prior lender, they weren't able to finish the loan. Either it just took too long or the other lender is not willing to extend anymore. But that's a bridge to bridge. Those are real challenging for us. It basically signifies that the first deal didn't work for whatever reason, and now we need a second loan. We do those only a handful of times, and they're really tough to do. Seasoned contract. So we're going to look at the contract and see when it was signed. If the contract's been around for weeks or even months, that's not typical for a real estate deal. We see it at our closing table where the seller's like, if you don't sign today, we're moving on. So if we get a contract that's been around since May, we really scratch our heads and say, why is this deal sat for so long? And we just want to know what lenders have looked at it. Why have they walked away? Doesn't mean that we won't do it, but we wanted to know the story behind it. Rapid high price appreciation. So I was just working on a case like this today. We want to know that if your property sold a few months ago for, say, 30% less, why is it selling again today? And the answer might be, well, the property was fixed. Well, then your story should match that. We shouldn't have to give you more rehab money to fix it. So that doesn't mean we won't fund recent transactions. We deal with a lot of wholesalers, and that's how they make money. They buy a property very low, or they just take title to it very short for a short while, and they sell it for a profit. So we will fund those, but we really want to know what's going on, and really, does the borrower know what's going on? Excessive wholesales. So that's a common question I get is, what's your cap? How much will you allow a wholesaler to make? There's some wholesale deals where I finance none. There's one we're closing this week that we just think the wholesale price does not fit with what the market has. So we're not financing any of it. There's other cases where we'll finance the whole wholesale markup because it fits with the market. The appraiser confirmed that the purchase price makes sense. So it's very case by case. Arm's length transactions. So we'll see where a parent is wanting to benefit their child and they say, I'm going to give Junior their first deal ever and I'm going to give it to them for half the price. I want to get them on their feet. We will do those transactions. We want to know about it. And our team's good. We're going to figure out what's going on. And really, we treat those kind of like refinances. If you were to refinance the loan from your name into your child's name, that's the terms we would offer. Entity gymnastics. So I was speaking to this when I was mentioning your team. Just tell us the story. Who's in the deal and why are they in there? What we don't like is the last lender declined the loan because one person had credit that was too low or a bankruptcy that wasn't disclosed. So let's quickly hide that person. I mean, again, the processors are going to figure it out. Save yourself, save central lending, time and underwriting, and just tell us up front. And this is a fun one. We do this internally. I'm over sales, but we'll have our sales team, basically pitch their loan to our lending decision makers. And if they can explain that loan in 60 seconds or less, it's probably a good deal. This property is located here. They're going to buy it for X, fix it for Y, and sell it for Z and make this much profit. That's a good deal. But once we start getting into, the ownership or what they've been doing for the past few years on it, it quickly loses its traction as a lender. Leverage ratios are really important. We put a lot of thought into what the appropriate leverage ratio is. Too much leverage wouldn't be fair to our investors because, again, we sell this capital. These are people we sit across the table from and have to explain how we're taking care of their capital. So too much leverage hurts them. Not enough leverage wouldn't be competitive. So there's a couple areas that we look at. I would classify us overall as a cost lender. We want to know, what are you actually paying for this? Anytime a borrower or loan broker says, don't worry about the cost, just look at how much it's worth, the market's smart. It very rarely can you get something for free or for a steep discount. So we always look at what is the cost of the deal. And then we look at these ratios, both at the start and at the end. And we want to know, as the project progresses, is it an appropriate leverage ratio? So there's 4 key ones that we use. The one that's most prevalent is in the bottom left-hand quadrant, that loan to cost. So again, we just want to know, how much are you paying for the deal? And based on that, here's what your loan could be. Your loan to current costs. So everybody loves to get cash back at closing or cash finance up front, and we do that from time to time. That's your loan to current costs. We do look at loan to value as well, but I'd say that's really a secondary measure. We just assume the project's gonna be worthwhile, but we want to know that the what you're spending on it makes sense, and then we want to see that the after results there. So for everybody, we don't know. We're looking at a projection. We can't guarantee when the market's going to change. However, the after retail value, that one's important because we want to know that once you put in all this work, are you going to make a profit? And here are some of the other metrics that we look at. I won't go into too much detail there. We're very methodical with the way we start these loans. So as soon as a loan is submitted, right away, a sales associate picks up your request, and we either decline it based on, just some outstanding features that I just went over, or we qualify and say, we're willing to work on this deal, order an appraisal, have you pay for the appraisal, have our team look at it, assuming everything you shared is correct. And then we'll close out with some case studies. But before I move on to that, any questions about leverage or some of the deal metrics that I shared? I'm not seeing any questions. Camilla, you seen any questions out there? Got it. Okay, we'll keep rolling. So here's a property in Lakeland, Florida. The investor purchased it for $150,000. They spent another $88,000. Their after repair value was $315,000. They had experience before. They'd done at least 3 flips. They received a total loan of $197,000. Sold it for $357,000. So all in, they profited $119,000. So not a bad day for this investor. Another deal down in West Palm Beach. This investor purchased for $285,000. They spent $32,000 and sold it for $370,000. They've done at least 3 deals before. Their total loan amount was $242,000, and they made a gross profit of $67,000. So off of spending a rehab budget of $32,000, they turned $32,000 into $67,000. Pretty cool. This one's over in Tampa. This investor purchased the property for $275,000. They fixed it for $89,000, and the ARV was $410,000. They had also done deals prior. Their loan amount was $300,300, and they sold it for $449,000 for a profit of $85,000. Here's another one down in Miami. Purchased for $430,000, fixed it for $40,000. Sold for $600,000 with a total loan amount of $376,000. This investor made a gross profit of $153,000. Some of the mistakes that we see, especially from new investors, they underestimate their liquidity. They're so focused on getting the loan that requires the least amount of money out of pocket. They're borrowing money from everyone because they just can't. They just think that, having a delay from the city for giving you a permit, or one of your contractors, doesn't pull through and you have to go find another contractor. They say, oh, that'll never happen to me. And that kind of feeds into the true cost. Another thing is they'll use, realtor numbers, or they'll use loan broker numbers. They'll use our numbers. I mean, the biggest numbers you should be focused on is the ones you pull yourself. And again, that's just using what you see when you look at a neighborhood and say, what's a realistic sale price for my property, assuming everything goes right. But what's a good backup that if most things go right or some things go right, how much could I realistically sell this property for and get my money back? And then dealing with the wrong lender. So a lot of lenders, unfortunately, they bring in investors by promising no down payment or very little down payment. Central, that's just not part of our DNA, where we're going to offer no down payment loans. We're very competitive. We go up to 92.5% of the total cost, but we still think doing at least 77.5% down payment makes a lot of sense, because nobody can guarantee what the future will bring, and just having a little bit of margin in there to protect against projects that go long or the market having a slight downturn makes a lot of sense. I'll go through this last part quickly here. Any questions on some of the properties that I showed first before I show just kind of some examples of how we review a loan? I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'll just charge through these and then we'll wrap it up. Scenario 1, the overconfident ARV, but they're local, so clearly they know. They want to buy it for $180,000. The rehab budget is $25,000. The borrower thinks it'll be worth $280,000. But when we run our report, our Richer Values report, they say, actually, it's going to be worth $230,000. The borrower's done 2 deals before. They have high credit, but they are local. You can be a contractor in that market. So do we do that deal? We will do that deal. And what we ask for in this scenario is we want the borrower to clearly state, why are you going to do this deal? The third party says, your ARV is going to be too low, but you're right there. So we have them spell out exactly why. But we also want them to concede that, if I'm wrong, I have a little bit of extra cash that could cover the difference. So we'll do that deal. The hurricane premium. So you saw our list. We are in Florida. Thankfully, hurricane season is dry in Florida, and we hope it stays that way. But There's years where it doesn't. Last one, there was a lot of activity. So there's a hurricane premium on this potential house. The price is 100 grand. There's a wholesaler in this. They put a wholesale fee for 75 grand. So they almost price. And then they want to fix it for another 100 grand. They think that 350 is the ARV, and this is a borrower's first deal. So are we going to fund? No, we're not going to fund that one. Maybe if the person had done, tens of deals before, they've done a lot, or we could see that they've done a project that's in a FEMA 50-50 area before, we do it. But we would rather decline this scenario here just because they really didn't show us they had the experience to go through that. Bridge to bridge refi. So we talked about this one. The first bridge loan with XYZ lender, they promised them a no down payment loan and even gave it to them. But now they're at a pretty high loan and they can't sell and they can't refinance. So they want us to take on the loan. It even has a tenant in there that's getting some rent. This borrower's done 3 deals before. Their credit's in the 600s, but they gave us a good explanation why. They just had some credit cards that they're getting balances on. But in this one, we declined it. The borrower wanted to get a cash out, and in this one, we really wanted them to bring some cash in. Scenario 4, somebody is doing their first ever build. They have persevered through fix and flips. They've seen what the market can offer for rehabbing house, but they say, I think I can make a lot more money by just building my own house. They buy the land for 100. The build cost is 350 and the total project is 450 all in. Their ARV is 475. They've done lots of flips, but never built a house before. For the permits, they have been submitted, but not yet approved, and their cash is $60,000, which is plenty for a flip, the flips that are used to. But this one's new. So we pull the leverage back just a little bit. We feel like 80% LTC is pretty fair. So we give them $360,000. The total project is $450,000. So from day one, we want to know from the borrower, what is your plan to come up with the 90 grand? And we really want to see it in their bank account from day one. But they might say, I'm about to sell another property, or, I'm a high wage earner. I got the money coming in. And this one, it's kind of a coin toss. We feel a lot better if they already own the land. We don't feel as good if they need to buy the land, use a bunch of money to buy it, and then do a loan after that. So it's really nuanced. So these are just some ways for you to connect. If you are in Lakeland or in the Central Florida area, we'd love to meet you. I'm located in North Carolina. A lot of our sales team is located in different areas. There's my email as well. I host a daily call also for brokers. It's called our deal room, and I'm in there. And a lot of times our CEO will join the call as well. He will be fielding questions, and so will I. But I think for a lot of loan professionals, you really want to know, are you going to fund me or not? So would love to invite you to that daily deal room. And also just some really exciting things for us. We are probably about a few days to maybe a few weeks to having a fully new facing borrower portal. So think of some of your top lenders that just have a great experience. We're going to have the same one where you can log in, size up a bunch of different scenarios. If you're liking what you're seeing, you actually submit it. And then right away, one of our account executives will contact you and go over those options. So of all the times for you to be thinking about bringing more deal flow to Central Lending, I really couldn't think of a better time than now. But with that, any questions? Any questions from y'all? Did I do that good of a job? Did I get all the questions right? Well, I will assume that's the case. I'll stay logged in for another minute or so, but that's all the content I had. Again, give us a shot. I have my email address up there. I host a deal room for loan brokers and loan professionals every day at 1:30 Eastern. I would love to have you all come out and visit that. Got it. Well, I'm not seeing any questions yet, so I'm going to go ahead and close up the room. But y'all are free to enjoy your evenings. Go check out Central Lending. Email me. Would love to keep the dialogue going. Thanks, y'all, and have a great evening.